As the Russia-Ukraine war continues for nearly 3 months with no clear end in sight, ThePrint brings you stories from the changing front lines. Amid criticism from pro-Russian voices on their country's military tactics in the Ukraine war, this past week has seen significant damaging losses for Russia, according to analyses of satellite imagery conducted by several media organizations and think tanks. The losses in question are said to have taken place on 11th May along eastern Ukraine's biggest river and essential fresh water source, the Siverskyi Donets. The river is also one of many water barriers in the way of Russian forces' strategic goal of advancing further west into Ukrainian territory. The Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff claimed that in the Donetsk region, the Russian forces aimed at gaining full control over Rubizne and conducting an offensive in the direction of Lyman. Both cities lie to the west of the Donets, further adding that Russia was trying to hold positions on the right bank of the river. On 14th May, the Washington, D.C.-based think tank Institute for the Study of War analyzed satellite imagery and cited a telegram post from Ukrainian NGO Inform Napalm to claim that Russia lost 485 of 550 soldiers that were sent to cross the river. The telegram post revealed that the Russian troops were dispersed by the Ukrainian armed forces' artillery attacks, leading to several days of failures and losses. The post said, and I quote, "The Russians brought another pontoon and expectedly received arrivals at the crossing. After they destroyed the evacuation crossing, the Russians abandoned their equipment and swam across the river. For 4 days of unsuccessful attempts to cross, the Russians lost more than 70 pieces of equipment and 2 infantry battalions with engineers." Satellite and drone images shared by Ukraine's defense ministry depict the wreckage of the scene. Several destroyed Russian vehicles are concentrated on either end of the destroyed pontoon bridge. Moreover, widespread analysis of these images on Twitter yielded a tally of Russian losses, estimated at over 80 damaged or abandoned equipment. The overall reported damage to the Russian motorized rifle brigade elements spurred the New York Times to call this one of the deadliest known engagements of the war. The ISW attributed this incident to either the Russian forces not being able to gauge the threat from Ukraine's improving artillery capabilities or to stunning lack of tactical sense. The failed river crossing also marked a distinct shift in the discourse of pro-Russian military bloggers and defense writers surrounding the war. These bloggers are largely independent of, but generally aligned with, the Russian government in their military analyses. For instance, one such blogger who claimed to have been a part of a previous river crossing near Izium wrote a telegram post alleging the failed crossing as a sabotage. The blogger said the following: "Didn't the commander of the crossing at Bilogorivka in Donetsk Oblast have information that in the 3rd month of the war it was impossible to travel in large columns, and even more so to accumulate them in a narrow area in front of a water barrier? How much of an idiot do you have to be to not understand this? Although this may not be idiocy, but direct sabotage. Honestly, wrecking and sabotage in this situation is much easier to explain." From a pro-Russia perspective, the implications of the failed crossing are significant and far-reaching, especially in terms of the language used by the bloggers and defense writers, albeit scattered across individual social media posts under aliases. The ISW in particular has claimed that this form of criticism may fuel burgeoning doubts in Russia about Russia's prospects in this war and the competence of Russia's military leaders. To an extent, such scrutiny is also gradually reaching beyond platforms like Telegram to places like Russian national television news. Earlier this week, retired Russian Army colonel and defense writer for Moscow-based news website Gazeta, Mikhail Khodorkovych, hit out at Russia's military tactics and spoke at length about disinformation on Ukraine's professionalism and morale on the channel Rossiya 1. Considering that European aid will come into full effect, 1 million armed Ukrainian soldiers needs to be viewed as a reality of the very near future. The main thing in our military business is always to maintain a sense of military political realism. If you go beyond it, then sooner or later the reality of history will hit you so hard that you'll regret it. Don't engage in saber rattling with missiles in Finland's direction. It actually looks quite amusing, Khodorkovych explained amid cross-examination by host Olga Skabayeva. Although Khodorkovych changed tracks on the same program 2 days later by labeling reports of counterattacking from Ukraine as rumors and reiterating enthusiastic support for the Russian armed forces, his previous break from the pro-Russia dominance of mainstream media appeared indicative of a narrative shift in Russian defense circles and the extent of the impact of this failed river crossing. For ThePrint, this is Raghav Bikhchandani, content research and co-written with Devika Goswami. For more, log on to theprint.in and follow us on social media.